Good evening and welcome to the Monday, November 8th, 2021 Kent County Public Schools Board of Education meeting, the open session meeting. The first item on our agenda this evening is the approval of the agenda as presented. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
We have a motion by Dr. Costa. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Ms. Sullivan. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. The agenda is approved as presented. The next item on the agenda is moving into closed session. The Kent County Public Schools Board of Education members, this board, Dr. Karen Couch, the superintendent, Mr. Dan Hushin, supervisor of human resources, and Gail Manley, executive assistant to the superintendent, will move to closed session under General Provisions Article 3-305B to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom this public body has jurisdiction, as well as any other personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals, as well as Section 9 to conduct collective bargaining negotiations or consider matters that relate to those negotiations. Do we have a motion to move into closed session?
So moved.
We have a motion by Ms. McGee. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Dr. Costa. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. We will move into closed session and be back at approximately 6:30 p.m. to open the open session again. Good evening and welcome back to the open session for the Monday, November 8th, 2021 Kent County Public Schools open session meeting for the Board of Education. The next item on the agenda is reporting on closed session. The Kent County Public Schools Board of Education members, this board, Dr. Karen Couch, the superintendent, Mr. Dan Hushin, Supervisor of Human Resources, and Gail Manley, Executive Assistant to the Superintendent, met in closed session under General Provisions Article 3-305B to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom this public body has jurisdiction, as well as any other personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals. Also, to conduct collective bargaining negotiations or consider matters that relate to those negotiations. This session was for information and discussion purposes only. No action was taken. Personnel actions will be voted upon by this board after the superintendent's report. The next item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Buckle, would you lead us? Thank you.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes for the October 11th, 2021 open session meeting. The administration is recommending approval of these minutes. Do we have a motion to do so?
I move that we approve the minutes from the October 11th, 2021 open session meeting.
We have a motion by Mr. Johnson. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Ms. McGee. Any comments, questions? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. The next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes for the October 14th, 2021 open session meeting. The administration is recommending approval of these minutes. Do we have a motion to do so?
So moved.
We have a motion by Ms. McGee. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Sullivan. Any comments, questions? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. The next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes for the October 25th, 2021 board work session. The administration is recommending approval of these minutes. Do we have a motion to do so?
So moved.
We have a motion by Ms. McGee. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Johnson. Any further comments, questions? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you. Dr. Couch.
Okay. Thank you, President Getz, members of the board. I have a few things to report. The first of which is we've got American Education Week coming up November the 15th through the 19th. It's an opportunity to celebrate public education. We would acknowledge everyone from bus drivers, classroom teachers, to cafeteria workers, to our administrative staff. We recognize everyone for their outstanding dedication and to the students, and work to ensure that every student receives a quality education. Galena Walking Path. The DNR grant was approved by the town of Galena, and they received the monies, and so they will be partnering with Kent County Public Schools to construct a walking path on the school property at Galena. The project will begin in June and will also include landscaping, plants, and flowers. The Galena renovation project, we issued substantial completion, and the contractor now has 30 days to complete the remainder of the project. Kent County High School track was completed. The first person who came to stripe the track was utilizing the wrong measurements. So regulation for the lanes are 36 inches to 42 inches. So when the contractor came back with a different striper, they realized that if they striped the lanes at 40 inches per lane, that they were able to get the 6 lanes, so the project is complete. COVID-19 testing to play for all winter sports. MACO will begin testing students and coaches from 10:30 to 12:30 at Kent County High School, beginning the week of November the 15th. And they will be testing students every other week in order to play winter sports.
How soon did the results come back?
They said within 48 hours. I sent out a modified quarantine guidance that was sent out through social media, essentially stating that students that are asymptomatic and unvaccinated who are in close contact with a student that has been diagnosed with COVID-19 will no longer have to quarantine as long as they were consistently wearing their masks and they remain asymptomatic. This was approved by the Kent County Health Department, and it gives us a way to make sure that our kids are staying in school as much as possible. Now, the only time that would not be allowed is if they were in the cafeteria and they were not wearing their masks. Vaccination clinics have begun. We're scheduling clinics for ages 5 through 11. We're partnering with Kent County Health Department. Garnett had their health clinic today for vaccinations, and I think all of the vaccination spots were filled. So that was today from 4 to 6. Tomorrow, it's Rock Hall Elementary, and on Friday, it's Galena. And they all run from 4 to 6. The other thing that I think was interesting that I wanted to just briefly talk about was OSHA and the vaccine mandate that potentially is going to affect our employees. Last Thursday, November the 5th, OSHA issued its emergency temporary standard for COVID-19 vaccination and testing, and this ETS would apply to Maryland school systems through the OSHA, and is currently an interim final rule that is open for comments. The comments on the ETS, including comments on whether the ETS should become a final rule, must be submitted by December the 6th. So if any of you are interested in making comments about that, you have until December the 6th to make comments. And if this does fall through, then we would no longer have to require our employees to be vaccinated. If it passes, then because we are an employer of more than 100 employees, it would require that we mandate for our employees to be vaccinated or to subject to weekly testing.
Would they have to pay for the testing, or just the school?
That's still to be determined. Under this ruling, it says that the employers would be responsible for paying for the testing.
That's terrible.
Yeah. And then the last thing I wanted to announce, we talked about this in closed session. I will bring this back for approval at the next board meeting, but I wanted to get this out there for our employees. We are going to add 3 additional half-days off for our employees. The first one would be December the 22nd, which is day before the holiday dismissal. So they would receive an actual or an additional half-day off December the 22nd. The next half-day off would be March the 18th. And the last half-day that we would add to the calendar is May the 27th, which is right before Memorial Day weekend.
And to just ask the question, some of these half-days are centered around the holidays.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
So put that on.
Yeah, so December the 22nd is centered around holiday, and May the 27th is centered around Memorial Day weekend. And it is really to recognize the additional work that our, and demands that our employees are having to put in for dealing with additional quarantine, covering and supporting classrooms for substituting, and all of the additional work that's been assigned to them due to the COVID demands that we have before us right now. So it is really a way for us to recognize our employees and give them some extra time off as well. So that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Couch. The next item on the agenda is personnel actions. Mr. Hushin?
Thank you, President Getz, school board members, Dr. Couch. Each month, the board receives a report of stated personnel actions that is discussed during closed session. The board then comes out in open session and takes a vote on those actions. The administration seeks approval of those stated personnel actions.
As Mr. Hudson just mentioned, the administration is seeking approval for these stated personnel actions. Do we have a motion to approve those stated personnel actions?
Motion to approve?
Motion by Ms. Sullivan. Do we have a second?
Second?
Second by Dr. Costa. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you. Okay, Ms. Manley, the next item on the agenda is public participation.
I have one.
Okay, as Ms. Manley's walking up, just the rules for public participation, speakers should limit their comments to 3 minutes. Comments about the actions or statements of individual staff members are not appropriate for public comments and should be referred to the superintendent of schools or processed through available channels. If submitting written testimony, speakers are requested to provide a copy to the president. Please remember that this is an opportunity for the community to address their comments to the board. It's not an opportunity for dialogue. If you have questions that need an answer, please contact the superintendent or write a letter to the Board of Education and a response will be sent back to you. We have the cards. The sessions will be timed for 3 minutes. When the 3-minute bell rings, please finish your last statement, and then we'll move on to the next person. The first person up is Dr. Speary.
Good evening, Dr. Couch, President Getz, members of the board. I'm Mary Helen Speary, the principal at Kent County Middle School. It's been a great deal of talk lately about what's going wrong in our schools and what can be done about it. I believe that we can and must do better. This is an extraordinary community, and its children deserve the very best we can offer them. I thought it might be helpful to frame this conversation in a different way. I wanted to take a moment to point out and thank members of the KCMS and broader community for their support as we return successfully to almost regular school. First, our parents. Our parents have been diligent in monitoring their children's health to keep us all safe. They have been understanding of the need to be flexible. They have reached out actively to teachers, guidance, our nurses, and administration to ask questions and share concerns. They have welcomed our communication about their children. Because our families support their children and our work, we are stronger. Thank you, parents. Next, our staff, our teachers and other staff. I cannot say enough about the Herculean efforts of our staff to help students readjust to the demands of school all day, 5 days a week. Not only are they addressing unusual academic needs, they are reteaching students how to be members of a community centered in learning. Our 8th graders' last full year of regular school was 5th grade. Our 6th graders' last full year of regular school was 3rd grade. KCMS staff, and I'd be willing to bet staff across the district, have embraced these challenges with determination, grace, and goodwill. Thank you, teachers. Most important, our students. Our students have been remarkable. They wear their masks, sometimes needing reminders to wear them properly, without complaint. They accept COVID restrictions like assigned seats at lunch and no Kent community gracefully. They participate actively in their classes. They seek out extra help. With very few exceptions, they have settled smoothly back into routines that many had forgotten. Thank you, students. Finally, our community partners who've been waiting in the wings for a chance to work again with our students are finding creative ways to rejoin and support us. Character Counts, Sultana, the Arts Alliance, Echo Hill Outdoor School, all back on board. Through a local management board grant, we are able to offer an after-school program with transportation. Our work is richer because of our partners' commitment to us. Thank you, partners. I'm connected to several networks of school leaders in and beyond the state. Everyone, it seems, is sharing challenges as students have returned to school this year. More fighting, more disrespect, more inability to work together. Kids and adults in schools are struggling with stamina at the very time they need more of it. Managing COVID in schools is no easy task. We've added keeping our students, staff, and families healthy to an already long list of expectations for ourselves. Anyone who knows and or works with me will tell you that I do not make excuses. Can we do better? Yes. Must we do better? Absolutely. Last sentence. I just wanted you to know that because of the goodwill and grit of parents, students, teachers, and partners in Kent County, our return, knock on wood, has been smoother than most. And the support of this community makes it possible for us to improve. Thanks again to all who are helping KCMS to get better and stronger at serving its remarkable students. Thank you.
Okay, the next participant is Valerie Walters.
Good evening. So I'm going to be talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good. Kudos to Chris Hemstetter. Our county public school system was once again in an unfortunate situation, not having proper support for our high school, a situation we should have not been in again. However, we continue to repeat this cycle often. Ms. Hemstetter, you have come in and surely made a difference in just a few short weeks. Thank you. Thank you for caring. I look forward to the positive results that you are sure to bring. Also, I would like to commend Trish McGee on your unwavering support of not only the students and the athletes, but the community in general. Your care for this community has been instrumental over the years, and it does not go unnoticed. I want to publicly apologize if I have not conveyed this to you. You are truly a special thread woven throughout Kent County.
Thank you.
The bad. Open door policy is a must, not only for transparency, but for full inclusion. Teachers and staff should not be afraid to speak up about their concerns and share ideas. The best administrators are those who welcome conversations and new ideas, collaborations, and support. Many school administrators accomplish this lofty goal by instituting an open door policy, where teachers and students can feel free to come in to a door that is open. I'm not sure I've ever met a successful leader who has not established an open door policy with their staff or employees. Furthermore, when there is trust, relationships blossom, and most often, success is the reward. The ugly. The conflicts of interest within the school board and our public school system is very disheartening and has been going on for far too long. A board member is presumed to have a conflict if the board member or a family member has a financial interest or a competing financial interest in a contract or financial transaction with the school, or if the board member's family member is an employee of the district. I realize we are a small county, but I also realize we sweep way too much under the rug and have violated conflict of interest for quite some time. And back to transparency. It's such an important word and the aspect in many successful relationships. A definition of transparency is, in general, a philosophy of sharing information freely in an effort to benefit the organization and its people. The reason that I think it is so important is because not only does it help form a relationship of trust and cohesiveness, it could also bring to light situations of threat or a possible threat to the community. I think it would be extremely unfortunate if community members found out that you were aware of 2 sexual misconduct investigations that have happened in the past couple of years at both elementary and middle school. I think it goes without saying that you have an obligation to protect our children. I also think it goes without saying that you have an obligation to inform parents and community members if there is an imminent threat of a possible sexual predator working within the school system. So yes, transparency matters, and so does honesty. You can only sweep things under the rug for so long. Thank you.
The next person is Barb Reed.
Hello, thank you for allowing us to participate. I came last month and I was listening, and I'm getting back involved. Though I have a child that should be attending the high school, I at this time don't have a child in the schools, but I think faith in the public schools was the topic I put on my card, because when you lose pupils at the way that Kent County is hemorrhaging, is how I see it, with like my background in science, that is what would impact your scores. The kids that parents like read to, or like I have been a substitute in the schools. I've been a member of the PTA. I have been character counts coach. You know, like I've been there, and you guys have seen and heard from me at this very podium. So if we don't work together, then we don't trust you with our children. So I see in this audience more people representing the business community. I see definitely people here for journalism reasons, and then your own staff. And I know some of your staff do not live in this county. They vote with their feet. You go elsewhere. So my kids did graduate from public schools. So we weren't looking for better. I just wanted appropriate and safe. So I'm speaking from the heart tonight, and I'm going to do what I hope others do. I'm getting involved. So I'm trying to plead. Hopefully you hear my compassion, but I've raised men that I don't want to see kids wearing these when they need to hear people. We need happiness, pursuit of happiness. I want to see smiles. I want hugs again. You know, I think kids need normalcy, and if we don't just say stop, we're not getting back to normalcy. So I have flown throughout the pandemic. Last year, when this hit the fan, I was working 2 jobs as an RN, and I don't speak for any health facility I've worked for, but I was with sick people. And many people have since died. Suicide, overdose. We got to look at public health, and that starts with the next generation. So I hope we can agree that kids' lives matter, of all creeds, and take the politics out of school, and focus on reading, writing, and arithmetic, and definitely social skills. So I think we need to make sure that parents and teachers, and as Dr. Sparrow said, the community embraces Kent County. It's typically a retirement county, is how people call it, but all qualities of our life, you know, healthcare around here, the manufacturing businesses, no one can find employees. I've grown a business, grassroots, could not keep it because it was a lot of me putting myself into it, blood, sweat, tears, while raising a young family. So I see where there's a lot of failures, but there's also a lot of hope if we pull up our bootstraps and work together and have some common sense.
The next person is Dawn Sutton.
Good evening. My name's Dawn Sutton, and I'm here as a concerned citizen. I was reviewing the Citizen Advisory Committee application, and I'm just looking for some answers for guidelines for that, because it wasn't real specific. So there was, basically, I mean, the application just starts out, pursuant to board policy BCF, the board will appoint an advisory committee that is balanced and diverse. Final selection of all members will be at the discretion of the Board of Education. Then it just goes on to ask some personal information, address, occupation, verification of, you know, Kent status as far as living. And then it goes in, there are 6 different categories. There are, so there are 2 Board of Ed members that will oversee the committee. And I just want to make sure I understand these properly. 2 for the elementary school level, 2 for the middle school level, and 1 for the high school level.
2 for each elementary.
2 for each elementary school?
Right.
Oh, okay, okay. Thanks for that clarification. Then there's a high school student. You know, depends on who may step up, but hopefully it'll be, you know, a leader among, you know, his or her peers. And then there's the community at large. So my question, it's just 2 questions. So who qualifies for each of the different school level representative? Is it parents, teachers, students, citizens? I just didn't know. I mean, is administration included in that? That's what I'm not clear for all those different levels. And, you know, and what the board is looking for from those representatives. And then secondly, for the community at large representative, I'm just wondering what the qualifications are for that. You know, what kind of person are you looking for? Who's eligible for the position? You know, because I talk to different people, and there are many people very interested in participating, but I don't want to just share this information without sharing it with the appropriate people. to make it more beneficial. And then to confirm, the deadline's December 6th for that? Okay. So can I get any kind of clarification on who's the eligibility?
It's anybody that would be associated with the school or connected to the school. We left it open in that it could be a teacher, it could be a parent, it could be a person who's volunteered at the school and very connected to the school. So it's really, if you feel like you should be considered for that school, then you should apply to be a member that representing that school.
Okay, with it called the Citizen Advisory Committee, that's what makes me think, I'm thinking, that goes beyond people just related to.
Right.
To
And
the school.
community at large would be anybody within the community that is interested in being part of the school system's committee.
Okay, so the community at large is the only position that's really open for a citizen.
Right,
That's not affiliated with a specific school.
right.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
The next person is Willie Gale.
Good evening. My name is Willie Gale. I've been brought up in this community. I'm 59 years old. Family's been around here since 1665. So there's not many people I don't know, and not many people that don't know me. I have a kid, a student, a son at the high school. I was a product of the private school system. My son wanted to go to the high school. He wanted to play football. He's dyslexic, so he has IEP issues and all kinds of things. Since I've been at the high school, I've had a wealth of information, from rumorville to third party to all the disasters that went down at the beginning of the season. It was kind of horrifying. The last videotaped person I saw in person effing out the principal, and I couldn't understand why he was still in the building, because he scared me, and I was in the assistant principal's room. So the topic I'm on is the ability or inability for our school system to offer a safe environment for our students. And when we talk about a safe environment, we're not just talking about violence. We're talking about sexual indiscretion. We're talking about CRT, programs that some of us don't feel that we, whether it's sex education. I don't know that I believe the school is the best at sex education. I mean, the bottom line is, parents feel they're the best advocate for their children, and the school's going to do their best. What has happened through this environment, and I'm an ear on the street, is that the community in a welling purpose feels like you guys dropped the ball. The board, the superintendent, and all the above. So where do we go from here? So I talked to them, and I want to tell you the good things that the school system is doing. I want to be part of the solution, but I say if you don't like your board members, and your board members ran unattested, or a great deal of you did, I said, well, you had the opportunity, and you can again. What my big concern is this is a really horrifying thing, and it's going to grow like a tidal wave here. These aren't just students, parents, these are people that live in this community, and the rumors are going out, and the videotapes are flying, and they are going to start showing up here filling every one of these chairs. And at some point, you guys are going to have a lot of pressure upon you. So my big question is, with all this discontent, and how are you going to heal it, removing the principal from the office, or taking a teacher that is, been questioned and moving her to another school is not the answer, okay? But the real question is, are you all prepared to give our new superintendent 4-year contract under this conflict? You might want to think about it, because there's nothing we can do about it. You can give her that. And whether she's a beautiful lady or not, how do you heal this wound? I mean, when a community has just lost complete faith in you guys to do your job. The principal said that he should resign. Maybe our superintendent should think the same thing, just to give us a fresh start. Not that she's wrong, or she's bad, or she's good. It's just let's just have a clean start. I certainly wouldn't be considering a 4-year contract, or you're not listening to your community. And that's all we want you to do. We want you to listen. Virginia just had a big election. Parents have to have a part in this. And we have lost faith in you guys, and it's a shame.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the reports, the Kent County Teachers Association. See a new face.
Good evening, President Getz, Dr. Couch, members of the board, and Mr. Buckle. My name is Melissa Walters, and I am the Kent County Teachers Association Vice President. Last week, KCTA held the first negotiations committee meeting, and we look forward to crafting our formal proposal and putting it in your hands soon. It's certainly been a busy year so far. Countywide, employees have been pitching in to help with class coverages, from IAs and teachers to administrators. Still, we must be cognizant of significant staffing shortages and how this will impact learning. Kent employees are famous for wearing multiple hats, but taking resources from one space does not ensure equitable learning for all. KCTA acknowledges that some significant learning gaps occurred during virtual learning, and we understand that differentiation is more important now than ever before. Teachers are meeting students where they are and want students to make progress, but progress takes time. Daily lessons are differentiated to ensure learning for students who are approaching, meeting, or succeeding grade level standards, but again, this will take time. KCTA needs the board's continued support to be conscientious about the current teacher workload regarding the need for more time to avoid burnout. There have been many positive initiatives shared on social media over the past month. It is great to see the positives highlighted when so often the challenges and hardships are what garner the most attention. Sharing the successes of our students and teachers reinforces the fact that all students in Kent County belong and deserve an education. Thank you for your time, and please reach out to KCTA. We want to work with you on improving Kent County Public Schools.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is board discussion. Mr. Buckle, would you like to start?
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. As always, I'm going to start with the school updates. From Kent County High School, Monday through Friday on November 8th through November 12th this week is KCHS Military Week. Today, we had a military fair in the Media Center. Students browsed tables with info on different branches of the armed services. There was also a military assembly, interactive opportunity to learn about different branches of the military. Representatives of all branches offered a question and answer session to promote opportunities. The KCHS Interact Veterans Drive. It's a contest between first period classes to collect much needed items for veterans in our community. The winning class will receive a donut party. Weekly classroom lessons to present military career choices in select classes is also taking place on Military Week. And finally, on Thursday, we will honor military service members and veterans in our schools, district, and local community. Today, we had the region semifinals for KCHS's volleyball team against North Dorchester. And on Saturday, November 13th, KCHS has its cross-country state championship at Hereford High School, where Charlotte Cousineau will be representing KCHS. On Tuesday, November 9th, we have KCHS College Tuesdays. KCHS seniors and juniors are invited to get help with college applications, registered for SAT, ACT, college essay, financial aid, scholarships, and more. And then also on Tuesday, November 9th, quarter one closes. On Wednesday, November 10th, KCPS early dismissal. On Thursday, November 11th, KCHS Dads on Duty planning meeting. And also on Monday, November 15th, Salisbury University is on site for an admissions day. And also Monday, November 22nd, University of Maryland Eastern Shore on-site admissions day. On Wednesday, November 24th through 26th is Thanksgiving break. And finally for KCHS, on November 29th through December 3rd is the KCHS Careers and Trade Week. Next to Kent County Middle School. Daily Monday through Thursday from 2:30 to 5 p.m. is the Trojan Influence After School Program. November 8th through 12th is Kent County Middle School Suicide Prevention Week. On Wednesday, November 10th, Staff Professional Development and Using a Trauma-Informed Lens in the Classroom Professional Development topics. On November 8th, 9th, 11th, at 2:30 to 4 is boys basketball tryouts, and November 15th and 16th from 2:30 to 4 p.m. as well is girls basketball tryouts. On Wednesday, November 17th from 2:30 to 3:30 p.m. Hackerspace begins. And then finally for KCMS is Monday, November 22nd is School Pictures. Next is Garnett Elementary School. Hackerspace before school program has started. The first session is full. November 10th will be Picture Day makeups. Next is Galena Elementary School. Ms. Muday has begun instrumental band lessons with students in 5th grade, and Mrs. Jatan has started an art club. The 5th graders are currently weaving pot holders. She has plans to include grades 2, 3, and 4 in the upcoming weeks. The morning news has been an amazing opportunity for 5th graders who have been anchoring the news, and Mrs. Santmeyer is looking to expand the news to include locations outside of the studio. Galena Elementary School will hold a vaccine clinic for students aged 5 through 11 on Friday, November 11th. After the school updates, I like to spend a few minutes to discuss things on my mind or to continue my role past just giving school updates. I want to take some time to congratulate and thank all the admin, staff, faculty, and students at KCHS and the broader KCPS. Over the last month, we have been pushed around with new admin, disciplinary issues, and hardships with the pandemic. However, with the tremendous help of Mrs. Hemstetter, students are starting to see the building turn around. The work is far from complete, with new challenges daily, but the work being put in the building is not going without notice. Thank you. The next topic I want to discuss is student member voting rights. Our student member voting rights state bill, in which we have been constructing with the help of Delegate Ludke, is a legislative priority and is hoped to be released in January with the General Assembly open. Our voting rights are finally making their way to the General Assembly, and students across the state, including myself, have worked diligently with Delegate Ludke to get the ball rolling. I encourage you all to look into the article that was just posted in the Baltimore Sun about our voting rights and the numerous op-eds being produced with the Washington Post, NYT, Maryland Matters, and Baltimore Sun as we speak. Boomy, the Anne Arundel student member of the Board of Education, put it best: we cannot fulfill our job as student members until you treat us like a board member instead of just students. Thank you guys for your time. That concludes my board discussion.
Dr. Costa?
I spent a few hours at the high school last week, I guess, the week before, and I was so happy to see it just be normal. It just seemed like a normal high school again after all this COVID. And both, I talked to some students, I talked to some teachers, and they all just seemed really happy to be back, and it was nice. I did see some cell phones in classes, which I just think that's a really bad thing to do, but it was really a pleasure to see how well the high school is getting back to what a high school should be.
Ms. Sullivan?
I just had a few things that I jotted down earlier. As we come to the end of the first quarter of the school year, I wanted to take a few minutes to acknowledge and thank all of the members of Kent County Public Schools. Our teachers are tasked with not only providing challenging lessons for our students, but also creating a safe and nurturing environment where our children can grow. And I want to thank all the teachers who are building community with our children and with our families. A few of our schools have dealt with changes in leadership since the start of the school year, and I want to thank the administrators who accepted the opportunity of this change midstream and for the relationship building that is happening at those schools with your staff and students and families. Our bus drivers make sure our kids get to and from school safely every day, and we've been short bus drivers, as have other counties and other places. And we've had to have people fill in, and I want to say how much we appreciate the extra time and effort that our drivers have been putting in for our students and our student athletes. I also had the opportunity to spend just a little bit of time with the custodian at Galena today, and I wanted to also thank all of our custodians for making sure our schools are sanitized and clean every day for our students, and I know that that's an extra effort that is going on this year. And lastly, my daughter went today, and I want to thank the Kent County Health Department for partnering with our schools to make sure that our littlest students are now able to get their vaccination. So thank you. That's all.
Mr. Johnson?
Thank you, President Getz. As always, I just want to give a recap of some of the things that I was able to attend this month. First, our homecoming was successful, to see our Kent County Trojans win. What a wonderful game. It's good to be in the stadium and see all the families out and show some sense of normalcy. Ms. Sullivan and I had a stakeholder meeting with some of the business community. I thought that meeting went really well. I thought we were able, the concerns that the stakeholders brought up and the concerns that we brought back to the stakeholders and the dialogue we had was healthy. And hopefully we can continue that dialogue. You know, the work does not stop. I've often advocated for a community school system, and that's what we have to do. I was able to go to the high school last Thursday. When I got there, Dr. Couch was there. We were able to peek into a couple of classrooms, stayed for the lunch shifts. I had discussions with Ms. Hemstetter. Just was able to talk. Saw some things that, you know, maybe we could do better, but all in all, I thought the day went really well. Things were quiet. And to Dr. Costa's point, it seemed like we're back to a standard and the school, and we can only go up from here, you know. I think that takes, again, a team effort. You know, it's not one person, but it's all of us to support that. I was able to get out to Wharton this weekend to watch a few of our Spartans play. So that was very nice. I don't always get out, able to get out there, but it was nice to see those. I attended a event for one of our board colleagues in Prince George's County, board member Belinda Queen. She had an event that she'd had invited some of board members across the state to come to. And so that was really good to chat with her and chat with some other fellow board members that were there at that time. I always want to go back to, you know, the point, you know, education, and I've said this since joining this board, and it is really the cornerstone of our development. It is, when we think about education, it's not always academic education, it's the education we get on the day-to-day, and how precious and how unique education is, and how we must hold it in high regard. We must care for it as if it was just its own child, and that's so important today. You know, so much is going on in our country regarding and centering around education. I believe one of the speakers talked about CRT, talked about, you know, there's a lot going on in our education, but the biggest thing is ensuring that our children are learning and ensuring, yes, our children are safe. Education is meant to be foundational, not political. Educational is meant to change and shift, you know, a student's mindset and shift the community around us. So the work that we're doing, you know, we continue to have to work together. We have to continue to work with our community. I'm glad that we're on the brink of, and by December, getting some names for our CAC. I think that will be good. But it's going to be a constant continuum. You know, we're at a crucial time, and I've said this before. You know, things we once did, we can no longer do. Things that we once did a long time ago, we have to bring back. So we have to continue to work in navigating it. And and I applaud the community. I truly do, to hold us accountable. Most certainly. My phone is always on. You know, you can call me any time of night. My number is 443-480-0986. I answer all calls. So if you have a concern, please bring it forward. And there's nothing, we can't handle concerns if they're not brought forward. So continue to bring concerns to us, and we will. And I believe have all faith in all of us here, even all the way, everyone down there, to hear and listen and see how we can navigate to make our school system the school system that we all want it to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. McGee?
I want to commend Chris Hemstetter for a turnaround in almost Mach speed at the high school. I mean, I know that we still have a long way to go, but every day I go out there, I see you. I recognize how much time it must take for you to post things on Facebook every day, but I appreciate that. Even something as simple as watching the kids tear down the wall in the weight room. That was probably a lot of fun for them. I want Mrs. Walters and Mrs. Bachman to know that we recognize how hard the teachers are working. I think about the plea that Ms. Bachman made to us when the school year started about the added stress that it was going to be on teachers and how they may have to take a step back so that they can take care of themselves and their own families. And we got off to a tumultuous start to the school year, and teachers had to step forward again. So we're trying to do things that show you how much we appreciate you. We had a really exceptional, I think, fall season at Kent County High School. Despite all the internal challenges we've had, which we've all talked about, somehow our athletes have managed to rise above that. The boys soccer team won the first ever region championship in school history, which is 50 years. We do have a first-year runner who has qualified for the state cross-country championship. Field hockey team with only 12 kids. We played with 11 most of the year. We reached the region finals. The football team made their first playoff in a long time. Girls volleyball was, as Sam said, is playing at North Dorchester tonight. That's pretty remarkable for a high school that doesn't have a whole lot more than 500 kids. I also want to give a shout out to one of our graduates, Manny Camper, was picked up by the Grand Rapids Gold. It's called the G League. It's the minor leagues of the NBA, which is the Gold. Grand Rapids is the minor league for the Denver Nuggets. So if anybody's a fan of Manny Camper, he'll be playing in Wilmington in January against the 76ers minor league team. And I want to address some of the comments that Mr. Gale made about getting citizens and parents getting involved. You don't have to wait until next year's election. We've adopted the Citizens Advisory Committee, and I will tell you, I can count on one hand the number of community members who have applied for that. So if the community is interested, and I mean this is an open invitation, apply. There are 2 seats for somebody who's not in any way attached to a school system. It's been cranky last month, I think, between some of the community members and some of the school leadership and us here on the Board of Education, but we don't know unless we hear from you guys. So this is really a golden opportunity practically to go one-on-one with the board. I mean, it's going to be a small number, 13, 2 at large and 2 from each school and a student, and we're still waiting to find or hear who might be that student member. So I'm looking forward to that board getting started, and I would encourage any community member that really wants to have their voice heard, please apply for that. And again, I want to thank parents and community members for getting involved. It's been uncomfortable for us, but sometimes change is uncomfortable. So I thank everybody for what they've done to try to push Kent County Public Schools forward.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd like to just echo everything that all the board members mentioned, but I will add in, I know we have 2 new elementary school principals as well that I think are doing a pretty nice job. And Miss Rose, I know you're still at Garnett, and that's great, and you're doing a great job, and everyone's facing challenges. So thank you to all of the principals, and Dr. Sperry, thank you as well for your leadership at the middle school. There's a lot of things there, that I know that you all are working very hard, endlessly to manage and make sure the kids are learning and they're safe. I just wanted to add just appreciation out to the citizens. I see Ms. Bort sitting in the audience. We've had a lot of folks that stepped up to donate equipment to those kids that were in need that might not have that ability. So it was really great to see the community step up in big ways and support the arts, music. So that was really great. And then this Wednesday night, just a reminder that the dedication of the Black Box Theater to the Tom McHugh Theater, I think, is going to be a pretty special event. And I'm pretty sure it's an open invite, but I don't recall. But just if you get a chance to see and hear and be there, it's pretty special to do that. I will remind the audience that we do have a masking policy, so I would ask that everyone please put their mask on for the meeting. Please.
Wait. I know, I think he went to see if we had some masks.
It is on the door.
There's a sign on the door.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, the next item on the agenda for this evening is education services. So we have school in the spotlight. Garnett?
Good evening, Dr. Couch, President Getz. So tonight we wanted to focus on the music program at Garnett Elementary. So tonight I have Jody Bortz, and she's a music teacher at Garnett. She's been with us for the past 2 years. And in that short period of time, she's really worked hard to provide our students with a wide variety of musical experiences and really collaborating with community members to build those positive relationships and to bring programs for our students, whether it's assemblies or programs at school or just as you mentioned earlier, just donation of musical instruments. So, and one of the other things that we're going to highlight is we have a new music curriculum. And so I think you'll be able to see some things that how last year when we were doing a lot of the online learning, that was one of the components Ms. Bortz was able to kind of look at parts of that curriculum, and that was one of the things that even though we were online, we were still able to provide them with some of those experiences. And one of the things that you'll see is like just the evidence of incorporating other subject areas in that. You'll see coding that's taking place in music. Or one of the things that's really important at this time is that social emotional piece. You'll see how those lessons are incorporated in music. We're teaching some social emotional skills during music class. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Jody, and she'll highlight our program.
Hi, President Getz, Dr. Couch, and the board, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to tell you about our music program at Garnett Elementary School. We are really reinvigorating the program this year, and I wanted to share with you some things. Some of the highlights that I'm going to talk about are our new curriculum. We have some professional performances that are happening. Our beginner band is reinvigorated, and we have a flourishing music club that I want to talk to you about. So first, talking about our new curriculum. We piloted a program in the spring. When we had hybrid learning happening, I felt like it was important to be able to provide equal opportunities for kids who were at home and also who were in school. And this program that I found was called Quaver Music, and it's really fantastic. And now that we're in person, we're even able to do more with it. That is really exciting. We were able to get this through a Title IV grant, and it's currently being used in pre-K through grade 8. And starting this year, it's district-wide. It aligns with Maryland's state music anchor standards. So each lesson and each material has a link to what standard we are incorporating into our teaching. It makes use of our one-to-one technology, so there are some hands-on things that creation tools and learning tools that the students can experiment with and learn on their own, and it gives us some online assessment and assignment abilities. It includes projects and performances, not just songs. So our students are learning things like will be learning how to play the ukulele. They're going to be learning about folk music and how spoons created rhythm throughout our history. And there are also musicals that are age appropriate for early grades. So these are some fun things going on. Another great feature of the curriculum is that it's updated quarterly. So whatever new materials are needed, they're very responsive to the requests of teachers to provide us with tools that we need. There's built-in scaffolding, so for any particular piece of music that we might be performing with the students, there is a simple layer for those that are emerging learners. But then there's also layers that you can build in with instruments or more complicated rhythms or rounds or duplicated vocal parts that allow students to experiment and to experience the music at the level that fits them. It also gives us the opportunity to create our own resources. So it's not just a prepackaged thing, there's also the opportunity for me as a teacher to say, my students need this, and so I can pull from things inside the curriculum or even outside the curriculum to bring in those pieces that the students need. And it's fun. The kids are really, really having a fun time with this. You know, they bring their Chromebooks down and they say, can we go to Quaver Street? Because Quaver Street is kind of an interactive, exploratory area where the students can get on the metro. I don't know if you can see it in the picture. They can get on the metro and they can take a trip to Jamaica and learn about reggae, or they can take a trip to South America and learn about samba, or to New York City and learn about hip hop. There's a music room where they can go in and they can write music. There's a lab where they can experiment with creating sounds and writing beats and composing music. So it's really opening up a lot of creativity for the students to be able to participate in those things. Another key feature is that it incorporates a lot of social emotional, especially at the earlier grades. A lot of the songs or the lessons that we're learning about have a component of something that is important to know just to get along in school, like how to be polite. We sang last week about please and thank you. How to be kind or to be a good friend. Sharing, safety, what does a police person do? And we sing about these things, or we do a dance. So it's been really a wonderful experience to bring this to the students. I want to talk about our community partnerships that have helped us to bring some professional performances. So in October, we were really fortunate to have the group Earhart come to play for our 2nd and 3rd grade. They were sponsored by the Kent Cultural Alliance and the National Music Festival. They're a Renaissance ensemble. They brought lutes and drums, and they had singing, and the students really got to feel the beat. They got to see a live performance of professional level music. The members of the band walked the instruments around, let the students see what they look like. They answered tons of questions. It was really wonderful. And we're also excited on December 3rd to have back the American Rogues. They came 2 Christmases ago. This is going to be sponsored by Main Street Chestertown and the Kent Cultural Alliance. And this is a modern Celtic band that plays kind of a rock Celtic kind of style, but some of the members are actually teachers. So they have a really interactive kind of program that the students can learn about the music, and they can dance, and they can kind of have a really good time. Beginner band. This year, beginner band is off to an amazing start. We have 27 students in our band program this year, which is just about half our 5th grade, which is more than I had actually hoped to get, and it's wonderful. We have a xylophone player, you have some violin students, saxophone students, trumpets, trombones, flutes, and a big group of percussion. And you can see in the bottom of left-hand corner of this screen, those are the instruments that were donated or that we received a donation to purchase. And most of it came from our alumni that either helped to get those or had instruments laying around or knew somebody who had instruments that they could get for us. That was wonderful. And you can see some of our kiddos, they're learning to play their wind instruments, their violin. So that's been wonderful. We have a music club which meets in the mornings on Wednesdays before school. We have about 20 students signed up. We have about 10 or 15 of those students who come regularly. So these are kids who are volunteering to be at school when they don't have to be, which is really wonderful. We sing, we dance. This group is also learning to play the ukulele. I want to give a shout out to my colleague, Dawn Riley, who has been stopping in to help with the ukuleles because there's a lot of kids in there. And it's really helpful to have somebody else to help them find where to put their fingers. We also are going to be singing at the Dickens of a Christmas Festival on December 12th. So the music club, they've picked a few songs, and we're going to have about 10 minutes on stage. I'm not sure exactly where or exactly what time yet because they haven't figured out their schedule yet. But we're really excited to be able to bring our kids out into the community and show the amazing talent and the amazing kids that we have at our school. And then, of course, the last thing is that we're working really hard on our holiday program. You know, I'm really excited about our virtual program this year. It will give us an opportunity to do some things that might be different. So I'm really reaching out to the kids and challenging them to think about what can they do to make this performance special, because there are things you can do with a video that you can't do live and in person. So can we add extra instruments? Can we add some dance moves we couldn't do on the risers? All kinds of things like that. And we're hoping to be able to share that in some kind of a virtual watch party with our families. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. And I want to thank you for having me. Thank you.
So for the beginner band, that's at all the elementary schools and?
All of the, no, that's just Garnett has 27.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there are, I believe Galena has 10 or 12 and Rock Hall has 9.
And then the holiday program, that is all the elementary schools?
Yeah, each elementary school will be having a program.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Are the members of the beginner band all just fifth graders?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Good,
I
thank-
think it's great that you're doing this. I think a good school system has really good music, and you're going in the right direction.
You should just see the excitement of the students, you know, especially in the music club, first thing in the morning, they're 8 o'clock, they're beating the door down, ready to be there, you know, to do that. And that's, you know, part of that's, I mean, it's part of the whole child, you know, wanting to come, that excitement of coming to school and just being able to participate in something. So they really do feel valued.
It would be really nice. I don't know where we're at. You know, some of my colleagues in other districts, it would be nice if they could come and even perform for one of our board meetings. I think that would be good.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, we could think of it. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Just all the drummers.
I would just like to add that Ms. Bortz brings a lot of enthusiasm to her class. I've sat in on one of her classes, and kids are very excited to be there, and I think she brings a lot of positivity into the classroom, and that's really needed. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the overnight field trip, the wrestling team. I see Ms. Hamstetter coming down.
Good evening, President Getz, Dr. Couch, and members of the board. The purpose of this agenda item is to present information on a request for a student overnight stay to the Andy Perez Memorial Wrestling Tournament to be held at Cambridge South Dorchester High School in Cambridge, Maryland on December 10th and 11th, 2021. This will be the first tournament of the high school wrestling season, but it's also part of the required schedule for the season. The trip will be chaperoned by head coach Chris Yanikis and the assistant coach. There will be 14 varsity wrestlers attending along with 2 managers and 2 coaches. There will be a female chaperone as well, which will be a team mom. We are booking 7 rooms, or we would like to book 7 rooms to accommodate the coach and staff. So 1 room for the coach and staff, 1 room for the managers and the team mom, 1 room for the bus drivers, and then the wrestlers would have 4 rooms. Students will leave Kent County High School on December 10th and travel to Cambridge. They will wrestle that night until approximately 10 p.m. At the conclusion of the Friday night rounds, the team will stay at the Comfort Inn Suites in Cambridge, and then on Saturday morning, they will return to the high school at 7:30 a.m. for the final day of wrestling. Students should return to Kent County High School at approximately 6 p.m. on Saturday. So the administration recommends approval of the overnight field trip to the Ashley Perez Memorial Tournament on December 10th, 2021.
As Ms. Hamstetter stated, this is an action item looking for approval for this overnight field trip to this tournament on December 10th. Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion by Ms. McGee. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Johnson. Any comments, questions?
I would just say they've been doing this for years, so they should have it down to a science by now.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much.
We didn't,
We're going to vote.
we're going to vote.
Just hang tight for 30 seconds. We'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Hamstetter, for bringing that forward. Appreciate it. The next item on the agenda is the Essa Plan. Ms. Jackamotes.
Good evening, President Getz, Dr. Couch, members of the board. Tonight, I bring you another cup of alphabet soup. Last time I was here, we were sharing the ESSER grants, and tonight it is the Essa Plan. So the Essa stands for Every Student Succeeds Act. And this is a required state consolidated plan that our district writes, submits, gets feedback on, and seeks approval of every year. This is not a new plan. In the past, you've heard of us refer to this as the master plan or the statewide strategic plan. It started in the year 2002 when the Maryland General Assembly enacted Bridge to Excellence Public Schools Act, and that's where we had the standards-based approach to school reform. In 2015, it was called the Every Student Succeeds Act, or ESSA, and again, it was reauthorizing the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, and at that point, it was about aligning our budget to the goals, objectives, and the strategies that are all outlined in the Bridge to Excellence plan. In the year 2019, it was now introduced as the local ESSA Consolidated Strategic Plan. And the biggest shift is really narrowing the focus. Rather than, I would say back in 2002, I can recall carrying 4 binders to the State Department to turn in our master plan. And what they've done now is they have asked school systems to think carefully about the alignment and come up with a very clear, concise, strategic plan so that you can align not only your district plan, but your school and also your classroom plans to make sure that you are measuring what's happening, and what's measured is what matters. These are the components that are part of this plan. This year, they did fold in the grant piece, so the ESSER fund, which you're familiar with, was actually the very first section of our ESSA plan. The second component is that of ensuring equity, followed by our key areas of focus. TSI school, we have one school, and I will share a little bit of information about that. The COMAR requirements, and then the last part of the plan are all the federal grants, and you hear us refer to these as Title I, Title IIA, the Professional Development Grant, Title III, Early ESOL Grant, and then also Fine Arts Grant as well. In terms of ensuring equity, as we put the strategic plan together, there were 3 key things that we were asked to consider. One is access to educational rigor that leads to academic and career success. And in terms of our plan, when we put this section together, we were really thinking about the importance of having effective teachers for all students, and the work that we're doing locally on our curriculum and our assessment. As I've mentioned to you before, we're using a document which is a vetting tool. And that vetting tool pushes us in terms of seeing that the work that we're doing is work that's giving students access to grade level standards, while at the same time keeping in mind how to address students perhaps that are speakers of other languages or a student with a disability. So it's important that we look at all of this through what's called an equity lens, and you'll hear that reference at the state level as well. The second point is providing the necessary resources and support to maximize social, emotional well-being. And under this topic, we often think about maintaining the environments in our school to be sure that they are fair, that they are diverse, and that they are inclusive. And again, these are the 3 things that we think about not only in terms of how we staff our schools, but also how we are addressing our students and the work that we do on a daily basis. That thinking about really maximizing the social emotional well-being is equally important as the academic success of the students. The last part of ensuring equity is that of the strategic focus on marginalized groups. Again, this is not a new component. This is one that you've heard us talk about before in terms of using disaggregated data. So we want to frequently be able to look at all students, look at identified student groups, and think about equitable solutions regularly to address any gaps that exist in our student learning. I know you may get tired of seeing the next slide, but this is our dashboard, and the dashboard is really driving the work that we're doing. So when our team began to think about what matters most in terms of the target areas, we were looking at the performance of all students as well as student groups. And two things jumped out that you've heard earlier because these are also part of our strategic plan. The very first area is the focus of academics. Academic achievement in the area of English language arts and math. And as part of this, in our Essa Plan, we have kept the same goals that are in our strategic plan. And that is by June 2022, our students will increase proficiency from 30 to 40% on the area of their NWE MAP scores, and from 14, leap to a 30% in mathematics. That is our target for this year. In terms of equity, we have also set a system-wide goal that by June 2022, any one student group with an identified gap, based on our fall data, will decrease the gap by 50%. So the next question, of course, is how are you going to do that? What happens on a daily basis to really respond to this? So we have key strategies that are built into the plan, just like in our strategic plan. So I hope that one thing we're trying to say repeatedly is this, although it's a state requirement, it really fits beautifully with the work that we're committed to doing at the local level, which is the work of our strategic plan. It's focusing on aligning our curriculum, instruction, and assessments with the grade level standards, delivering job-embedded professional development, and a big focus on that quality initial teaching. One of the things that we are putting together is a tool. Last year was the first year we put the tool in motion. That's a walkthrough tool. It's a common tool where we will be able to hold one another accountable for things like student engagement, evidence of differentiation, and are we regularly seeing that we're monitoring the progress of all students, not just saying it, but doing it and monitoring it as we go throughout the year. There are funds dedicated in our grants, more funds than we have had before in terms of what is called targeted tutoring. And this tutoring is designed for adaptive interventions, and these are interventions that we have shared before, but just to, again, give you an overview very quickly, they include things, we call it the Imagine Suite, Imagine Mathematics, Imagine Language and Literacy, Lexia, Revision Assistant, Sound Partners, Imagine Espanol, and we also have Dreambox in the area of mathematics. So we have a variety of what we call adaptive, targeted tutoring resources. But I think what matters most are the tutors that, and again, I look over at Don who's sitting over there. We also have live tutors that come in and work with our students on a regular basis. And there's nothing that matters more than that relationship between the adult and the child and that opportunity one-on-one to really understand what needs to be done to help all students succeed. So targeted tutoring and then a variety of interventions that are part of the key strategy to help reach the goals. Although, if we think back to a number of years ago when we had the master plan, there were probably 12 pages of strategies listed. It went on and on and on. And one of the things that we've learned is you can't possibly manage and monitor and effectively see, are they working, are they not? So in terms of what we are sharing with you right now on this slide, you'll see some really key commitments that our team has made. And what I love the most is they're not just here. You're going to see these key commitments come up when you take a look at the school improvement plans, because what we believe is that these are the strategies that are going to make a difference. And I'm not going to read the list to you, but some of the things that are very different this year, for example, we had a recent conversation with all of our principals looking at the student learning objectives. And Dr. Sperry was sharing with our principal team some of the tweaks she has made this year with the middle school level in terms of SLOs. And I think the intentional focus and thinking that's going on in terms of really aligning the work at the school level to what it is that we're trying to do at the district level gives me hope that you're really going to see the difference in our student achievement as well. So the language of that SLO is reflected in such a way that students are going to get that individualized instruction. And she actually, with her team of teachers, have identified child by child. Who is it that we need to help? What is the area where we need to support them to help them move over to the level of proficiency? That is powerful work. It's not just words on a PowerPoint. We're trying to put into action the commitments that we're making. I'll pause because I think I see a few questions coming up.
What's a walkthrough?
So a walkthrough is where you have an instructional team, and in our district, we often have the principal, a district supervisor, teachers have been on the teams as well. And it's a way to hold each other accountable to look for evidence of what it is that you're implementing. For example, tomorrow we have an informal walkthrough in some math classes. In that case, an MSDE team member is actually joining us. We had asked for some support, and they're going to be coming into one of our schools and taking a look to see what do we see happening during that initial round of instruction. And it is not a gotcha. It's more about what do we see that's working well and what are some things that we need to adjust to do a better job with that quality Tier 1 instruction. So walkthroughs, a team of teachers with specific look-fors will go into a classroom and they will look for evidence of what we are and are not doing in terms of improving learning. Does that make sense?
Does a walkthrough happen in every class?
So walkthroughs they're scheduled by the school principal. And in most cases, you're going to have a walkthrough where you will hit many classes. It's very hard to hit all classes. Very often, the principals will have an area of focus. And I'm going to pause because I know we've done quite a bit. I didn't know, Brenda, if you wanted to just speak up for a minute and say an example of one that we did in your school before.
At different times, when we were talking about like math instruction or groups, like the rotation, and we're kind of focusing mainly looking at when students are working in small groups, what is happening. Just look to see if there's differentiation based on those students. So kind of focusing just instead of math in general, something specific with that.
And one of the things, you helped me think of this, one of the things that Brenda talked about was the use of manipulatives in math. So that was an example of something specific. You would be looking for what types of manipulatives they are using. Is it aligned to the standard? Is there any job-embedded coaching that may be supportive to help us get better at that instruction?
As well as sometimes when we do professional development, we're seeing evidence of things that we had professional development in, that they're implementing that in the classroom as well. So it kind of helps us determine next steps for us as administrators.
Thank
I
you.
have a question. You say targeted tutoring, and I understand there are some tutors at maybe all of these schools, right?
Correct. There are tutors in all schools.
How many would we need to really provide a tutor for every child who needed one?
So I think one of the things we've learned with the tutoring, because we do have a variety of sources that fund the tutoring, including Title I. Title I's been offering tutoring services for a number of years. Sometimes it's not so often the number that we need. We're not looking to have a huge volume, but it's intentionally identifying the students that may need specific help and seeing that we can provide that at an appropriate time so that child's not missing that core instruction from the teacher. So if we have people that are interested in tutoring, we are always looking for support. But I don't know that it's necessarily, I can name a number that if we had 50, it would make it perfect. I think it's more about the match between what the student needs are, how the schedule works, and then how the best delivery of that tutoring, if that makes sense.
How about training parents to be tutors of their own children?
In our early childhood classes, we have given some support to something called the PAT program, Parents as Teachers, which is sort of that concept where you are your child's first teacher at home, and that's a very effective strategy that our early childhood team is well aware of. But other than that, we have tutoring in our school system that begins as early as kindergarten. So,
I'm glad you're having somebody from MSDE. I think it's a good idea to have some outside eyes. Again, not as gotcha, but just, I think companies do this very effectively, and maybe we should too.
Yes, and I have to say, aloud what many of you have said before. It is impressive, the work of our principals and what they're doing. Not only those that are continuing, thank you, Ms. Rose, and Dr. Sperry, but those that have shifted around, Chris and others, because they're at these schools nonstop, and when they go home, we're talking at home. I mean, it is never ending. So I don't think you could have more of a commitment to our students to really try to help us get beyond whatever this barriers that we're facing to improve things.
Are the tutors community members, or are they part of our staff?
So it's a mixture. We have a handful of tutors that are retired teachers. For example, in Title I, they've been there for a number of years. Some of them each year are interested to return, others refresh. We have new people retire that want to come back and tutor. In addition to that, we have pockets of partnerships. For example, in Rock Hall, the Learning Center, a strong partnership there, and they often will tutor our students at Rock Hall Elementary School. You know that we also have a ton of tutoring in terms of Garnett Elementary and Galena as well. It varies. It's retired teachers, community members, sometimes even just different like little businesses that are interested in helping. We are interested in having the help as well.
I think we must also define the word tutoring, because in some of our systems, tutoring is releasing an intervention outside of, just tutoring one-on-one. So I think we must could you define that for us as well, just once again?
Right, so when we think about it, and I want to make sure I'm answering.
Just define tutoring, because I think we have the tutoring, like one-on-one tutoring that we would do with a student, but we also have people who are just releasing an intervention
Yes.
for us, and they are considered tutors as well. So I just want to
Correct. So
define the two types.
in some cases, for example, and I think this will clarify it a little bit, our Title I program has teachers that are assigned as interventionists. So, for example, Heather Davis has worked for us for a number of years in Garnett. So she also has a caseload of students that she works with in small group instruction, which is another type of tutoring. I can't even say it anymore, another type of tutoring. But then we have a group that is grant funded that you've heard me share before, Sound Partners. They are community volunteers. In fact, one of our volunteers is a bus driver. They have had extensive training. Their program is very scripted, and they work one-on-one with students and monitor the progress on a research evidence-based program. So, you have different types of tutoring that happen within and around the schools. Does that help a little bit? Yeah. I wasn't finished. Okay, so any other questions about this, the examples of the strategies that are in our plan? Okay. The next slide is specific to Kent County High School. And Kent County is identified as a TSI, or Targeted Support and Improvement School. So this is any school in the state of Maryland where one or more student group has performed below the all-student group on the state assessment. So this is based on the 2019 data. We were unable to show any change because we did not take the state assessment again. The targeted group at Kent County High School is special education, and Dr. Keene, Jillian Spiro, and the Kent County High School leadership team have worked together to develop what's called a TSI plan. That's a required plan. So on this slide, I have simply, and Dr. Keene is here, can back me up on this one, I have lifted the language from their plan. So basically, in their TSI plan, this is what they have committed to this year to really help move the students. So those 60 students right now that are performing at a percent that's lower than the all-student group will receive the following strategies to help overcome that challenge. The first piece is job-embedded professional development and support to the co-taught classrooms. The focus there is going to be on differentiation, intervention, and specially designed instruction. And that training was provided by Dr. Keene. Did you want to add anything to that?
We have worked with national consultants on co-teaching and improving scores, and this only focuses on GLA. It's a general education intervention. It's not necessarily special education. That's why Mrs. Spiro is doing this.
The second piece is professional learning communities, focusing on data and progress monitoring to ensure that students with disabilities are receiving standards-aligned instruction. And again, as you know, Ms. Spiro has recently been reassigned to become the principal of Rock Hall Elementary. So we are also working together to have a new team that will support the TSI school at the high school. So again, continuing with, not saying that we're leaving them out there hanging, but this is a group where they had their initial meeting and ongoing training with the SDI. However, I think it's something that we will continue to revisit and to be sure the appropriate support is provided. There is a specific reading intervention course that is offered, so that has been scheduled in and that's being delivered. And then also the commitment is to utilize Lexia as a reading intervention as part of the general class, which will allow students 20 minutes for students that are identified that need that additional support. So at the high school level, you don't have all students on Lexia. It's a little bit different. It's used really just for those that are identified as needing this. And I think that sort of sums that piece up. So we just wanted to be sure that we shared with you TSI is also part of our Essa Plan as well. There are several COMAR requirements that are part of the plan. One of them is the area of gifted and talented instruction. And what I have on this slide is something in terms of just an overview that Kent County does have an identification process. We begin to identify students formally in 3rd grade. However, we have something that's called a universal screener, and we have programs and services that begin as early as K through 3 called primary talent development. So these are units that are offered in the early years for all students. Programs and services are offered at elementary, middle, and high, and they vary, and you'll see some examples up here from each level just to kind of give you an overview. You've heard me mention the units. They actually name the units at the elementary level. In the middle school, we know that grade 7 students compress the 7th grade math curriculum into a half year and begin pre-algebra and algebra instruction. And grade 8 students are eligible to participate in Spanish 1 and Algebra 1 for high school credit. World language credit will also count toward dual enrollment at the middle school. And again, I think they are the more formal programs that we offer. However, there are also unique opportunities that, that are offered based on the needs of the students. And I'm sitting here hesitating because I know Dr. Spiro, you're going to back me up on this one. The last one we just talked about the other day, for example, you tailor math. You're looking at doing something different for a handful of students that have been identified as gifted in math. Would you mind sharing that example? I think it's more relevant than what I have listed here. I think that's a great example of how personalized our gifted services can be. I mean, we really look at the individual needs of students and where they excel, and then are able to work together to offer the best programming that we can. So with that, I just wanted to give you a quick overview of our Essa Plan and leave it to see if there are any questions or comments.
Do we offer advanced placement calculus at the high school? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. You're doing that?
Yes.
So how many kids are involved in that?
That class?
Yeah.
It's next semester, but I believe it's around 20 enrolled.
Really? And they all take the test? The
Yeah.
AP test?
Yes, to get the credit for the AP credit. Yeah.
Don't we make all our students take the tests, our AP tests, which
Well,
is,
Yeah.
I was gonna
So
say,
that
'cause
has
some
been
school-
something
some
that
school
if
districts don't.
Tracy Williams in here, she would tell you absolutely. I think it's sort of considered a point of pride in our school district because anyone that has gone through the course, the expectation is that they will take the AP exam. I mean, that you are prepared and you are ready to take that exam. So yes, in our district, they are expected to take it.
I just want to comment. One of my professors works actually at MSD, and we have been talking about these Essa plans, and she actually helps review some of the Essa plans. And so it was really nice to, hear the plan tonight so I can have something to go back tomorrow for to class with until we talked about it. So, but thank you.
Thank you so much.
Any additional questions, comments? Okay, thank you, Ms. Giacomotes.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, the next item or section of the agenda is Administrative Services, Expenditures Revenue Report. Ms. Stewart?
Good evening, Dr. Couch, President Getz, members of the board, student board member. I'm going to start out tonight with our monthly revenue and expenditure report as of October 30th of 2021. As you would note on the first page, it gives you our overview of what we have received so far for fiscal year 22. Fund 1, about 11.2 million. Fund 3, 105,000. Fund 5, which is our food service, 295,000, which gives us a total of 11.6 million. We go down to our expenditures for our current expense fund. We have expended about 71% of our fund. School construction, I removed the percentage because school construction is kind of different in that we do get reimbursed for some of those expenditures. But I still wanted to provide you with the overview of what we have been spending. We still are undergoing the Galena reservation with Rock Hall. That was our final, I believe, our final invoice for the reservation for Rock Hall. And then we have the parking lot and the KCH, some preliminary work that has to be done for the roof replacement as well as funding for the track, what's been spent. Then we go to our food service. There's about 51% that we have expended to date. And then we have our restricted funds, and our restricted funds are up to date in what we have budgeted so far. Please note that this amount will change, the budget amount will change as we will, I believe there are still pending grants that we are going to receive new awards. So that's going to increase that budget amount for restricted funds. And then the last page is pretty much an overview of our receipt and expenditures for your review. This is just for information only. Are there any questions?
Any questions? Ms. Stewart, thank you for preparing the report.
No problem.
Appreciate it. Okay, that was for information only. The next item on the agenda is the Unrestricted Funds Budget Amendment Number 1, FY 2022.
So this does, I'm asking for board approval for this amendment. Amendment is for twofold for fiscal year 22. And we receive from the Maryland Blueprint Kerwin funding for special education in the amount of $124,390. I was informed that this year this funding is now considered an unrestricted revenue and not restricted. However, it's two parts. It's unrestricted in the revenue, but it's restricted to special education services. So I will need to move that from restricted to unrestricted. And then in capital outlay, we receive our aging schools allocation For fiscal year '22, the aging schools allocation was $38,292. However, we did have a carryover amount from the prior year of $39,793. So this budget amendment is to bring our budget to the total allocation for aging schools, which is $78,085, because we initially budgeted $44,991, which was for our budget when we went through for fiscal year '22, but we got the actual amount that we are going to receive. So this takes care of it to bring us to current. And so I'm asking for the board to approve the unrestricted funds budget amendment number 1 for fiscal year '22.
This is an action item. Board approval is requested for the approval of unrestricted funds budget amendment number 1 for the fiscal year 2022. Do we have a motion to approve?
I move.
I heard Mr. Johnson go first.
I move that we approve the unrestricted funds budget amendment number 1 for fiscal year 2022.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Costa. Any additional comments or questions of Ms. Stewart? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the Board Policy BBF, Ethics Policy.
Thank you, President Getz. You have before you the final reading of Policy BBF, which is the ethics policy. You also have included a complaint reporting form, which is new. I also have been in communication with the State Ethics Commission, and they indicated that they received information from the governor's office that they have to move back to their original office, so they are canceling all of their meetings that they had in December to January. So this was on their agenda to be approved in December, but it will be approved in January.
Okay.
So, and then just a notation that once we approve this policy, there will be some additional changes that will come down from the State Ethics Commission that we will have to adopt at a later date as well. So, I also provided to you.
So those would be considered mandates? I mean, we have to adopt them?
Yes.
Okay.
We would have to adopt them. This is their model policy for school boards, so this is one that they suggested that we adopt. And that way it will, I asked him if there was going to be any problem with this approval in January, and he said no, since we were utilizing their model policy, it should be fairly quick, painless approval. And then also, once this policy is approved, I would like to put this on the website, put it under the board members page. And so there would be a reference to the policy, the complaint form, and then I provided you with a Q&A, which is a really quick information piece for anybody that wanted to get any additional information about the ethics policy. And I think that way it would be pretty well self-explanatory. And that would be part of the education piece that would be on the website for people who wanted additional information about the ethics policy. So with that, unless you have any questions, the administration is asking for approval of the updated ethics.
I just wanted to follow up. You and I had exchanged an email about what the procedure was for when a complaint is filed, like what happens next?
Once a complaint is filed, it gets, the complaint form would be completed and it would be forwarded to the panel. And then the panel would be meeting with legal counsel in terms of responding to that complaint. There would either be a no ruling, no finding, or there would be a further report to the Board of Education, and then it would be up to the Board of Education to determine what kind of sanctions would be taken against that individual.
So the ethics panel is advisory. It doesn't have any
The final
I mean,
decision.
I don't want to say power, but it doesn't make a decision.
It recommends a decision to the board, which the board would then take a determination in terms of what sanctions there would be. Because if you look at the policy itself,
I'm looking at it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, the sanctions are, the official who violates this chapter is subject to discipline, personnel action, or removal from office as provided by law and consistent with procedures set forth in law. So, and it would be based on additional support from legal counsel, which would be, our legal counsel would be involved with the panel,
Yeah,
the ethics panel.
I think you answered this, but I want to make sure my question's clear. The ethics panel is advisory. Their recommendation is not binding, is what I'm asking you.
I don't believe that it's final binding.
Okay.
It would be the Board of Education according to this policy.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I just want to
Yeah.
make sure. Okay.
But now, the only time that would be different is if there was a complaint made against the Board of Education. So then that would be, that's why I'm a little hesitant in
Okay.
terms of it just depends upon what kind of complaint there is and how it would have to be addressed by the panel and also by legal counsel. I mean, it's pretty rare that an entire board would have an ethics complaint provided against them, but it's possible.
That's a,
Okay, this is an action item. The administration is recommending approval of Board Policy BBF, Ethics Policy, including the accompanying Ethics Panel complaint form. Do we have a motion to approve this policy?
And the Q&A.
And the Q&A.
So moved.
We have a motion by Dr. Costa. Is there a second?
Second?
Second by Ms. Sullivan. Any further questions, comments? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, so with that, I would work with staff so we could get this on the website and get it up in, within the next week.
Great. Okay, moving on the agenda, public participation. Ms. Manley? Okay, the next item on the agenda is the notification of our next meeting. The next monthly meeting of the Board of Education of Kent County will be held on Monday, December 13th, 2021, beginning at 5:30 p.m. with the open session. Open session will be immediately followed by the board members going into closed session. The open session will resume at 6:30 p.m. The meeting will be located at the Administrative Building in the boardroom, this room, at 5608 Boundary Avenue, Rock Hall, Maryland, 21661. The last item on the agenda is to adjourn. Do we have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I move that we adjourn.
We have a motion by Mr. Johnson. Do we have a second?
a second.
We have a second by Ms. McGee. Any comments, questions? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.